a Florida garden where it can be such a struggle to grow anything, how is it that I was able to grow 500 pounds of food? And that's what we're gonna cover today, because I'm gonna talk you through what were the things that grew the most amount of pounds, what saved the most of money from the grocery store, and then some of the different insights I had from the information that I captured this year to figure out what may work really well for you as you go into your 2022 Florida garden. Right? I mean, who does data? Data. We use data. I love numbers. So the first thing is when it came to growing the most amount of pounds, the majority of the pounds of that 552 came from 3 plants. And that's it. 3 different types of plants. So the number one plant that just drove pounds and pounds of food was a complete surprise this year because it was the first year I'd ever grown it, and that's papaya. Papaya this year was 212 pounds. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely crazy how much we got. And that came from just 2 plants. Each of them averaged just about 100 pounds of papaya. Which, what do you do with that amount of papaya? And honestly, that was a struggle this year, was figuring out, do we want to have more green papaya? Did we want to have fully ripe papaya? Did we want to have almost ripe papaya? Because papaya has this funk to it. And if you're not, if you didn't grow up with papaya, it's unique. It's unique. So that was kind of a big learning curve for us, was how are we gonna use this? Where are we gonna use it? And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that our freezer broke and we probably lost about 50 pounds of this, I don't know what we'd be doing with all the papaya. But I think if you're thinking about your garden, if you wanna talk about a plant that's gonna very quickly get you a lot of pounds of food, papaya, if you love papayas, or you wanna use it almost like a melon substitute, or frozen strawberry substitute. We kind of did that if we got it when it wasn't fully ripe but almost ripe, that it was a really, really good useful plant. And if you just like papaya, dry papaya, there's a million things you can use papaya, and everyone did such a great job of giving me lots of different ideas, and I'm sure they'll do it again this year with different ideas for all the plants that we talk about. So just make sure you share in the comments below, because I think that's the big thing, is so many people aren't from Florida, and so when we talk about these plants, getting ideas of how to use them is really, really helpful. So share, help each other down below. Yay. Number 2 was bananas. Banana. And we grew 125 pounds of bananas. Now, if you remember my numbers from last year, this is lower than what I grew this year. Last year I was able to grow 175 pounds. So we were 50 pounds less than we did this year. And I had to have a good think about what happened? Why was it less this year? Did something go wrong? But overall, when I was thinking about the year, I was no, I mean, everything kind of went right. Except the thing was that I basically this year abandoned all my dwarf banana plants. I just really did not, I just prioritized time-wise, not dealing with all those small bunches and small bananas, because peeling all those bananas takes a lot of time. And so having to deal with lots of different bunches, I just didn't want to do it. So that 125 pounds came from just 3 bunches of bananas. 2 plants. Actually, it was only 2 plants, because one gave us a double bunch and then we had one up front that gave a bunch. So just 2 plants, 3 bunches, 125 pounds, which I think is really great. And this year when we're going into it, when I think about what my goals are, I feel like I've got plenty with the 3 big grand name bananas to meet all my needs for next year. So what I'm gonna be doing is completely moving away from dwarf Cavendish banana plants. But I don't think, if you're interested in growing bananas, that if you have a dwarf that you should totally abandon it. Because if you want to get a little bit of bananas throughout the years, 10 to 20 pounds, dwarf bananas are great for this. But because we just end up freezing it, I just want to have big bunches, and what the Grand Names give me is 40 to 50 pound bunches, which is right up my alley for just cut the bunch down, put it away, and then have it for the year. But I think this was really cool to see that just 2 plants, 3 bunches, 125 pounds. Our number 3 plant for pounds, just under 90 pounds, was sweet potatoes, which, you know me, I love me a sweet potato. And we of course grow, we talked a lot about that in the growing sweet potatoes, like answering all your questions video. Like, we grow the white type that tastes just like potatoes, and then we grow the classic orange type, and we got a lot. So much so that as we go into this year, I'm like, I don't want that many. We don't go through that many. And every year we've grown this, it's gotten better and better. The first year we grew about 48 pounds. Last year we got 66 pounds. And this year to have almost 90 pounds, even though it missed our target of 100, I'm glad we didn't get all 100, because that would have just been way too many sweet potatoes. We still haven't finished all the sweet potatoes that we harvested from earlier this year, earlier in 2021, let alone the late harvest. We're not even close. So that will be one that I'm gonna be doing a lot less of. But if you want to grow a potato, grow a sweet potato, just get the white type. Because they're so easy. All 3 of these plants, super easy. So now if we like sum all that up from those top 3 plants, of the 552 pounds, 427 pounds came from just those 3 types of plants. And if you think about what I said, 2 papaya trees, 2 banana trees, and just 1 section of sweet potatoes. And that's it, 427 pounds. That's a lot of pounds for not a lot of plants. But one of the things that hit me, and it's kind of like, well, no duh, once I looked at it, but I think it's something that it's hard for us Floridians to always figure out, is that when we're wanting to grow lots and lots of pounds of food, and we're trying to do like this classic northern gardening, you're just not going to be as successful driving lots and lots and lots of pounds. For Floridians in Central and South Florida especially, the way you get lots of pounds fast is large, herbaceous, perennial, tropical plants, because that's what all 3 of those are. Papayas come from the Caribbean, there are even native types to Florida, bananas, which come out of Southeast Asia, and then sweet potatoes, which are native to the Americas, but specifically the tropics, all grow really fast, and they all put out lots and lots and lots of pounds fast. Papaya was only a year old. The banana plants, depending on which one, the one that put out 1 bunch was only a year old, the other one was like a year and a half, 2 years old. So within a relatively quick time, you can get lots of plants, get lots of pounds of food. So when you're thinking about if you want to get pounds of food really quickly, look for herbaceous tropical perennials. And the reason I emphasize the herbaceous part is, like, yes, you could grow orange trees. Yes, you could grow like carambola, but those are those woody type of actual trees. Those take years. Even a mulberry, which yes, in a year it can make mulberries, but you're not gonna get pounds and pounds and pounds, where it's really like the difference that makes a difference. I definitely think those are great investments, but they are definitely long-term. If you want lots of food quick, herbaceous, tropical, perennial. Those are the words you wanna be looking for your Florida garden. And I highly recommend, and I talked about this through a lot of videos, I'm always like, sweet potatoes are super easy, bananas were super easy, and now having my first year under my belt with papaya was super easy. I put very little effort towards all of these plants. Most of the work was really around keeping them pruned and then harvesting. Most of the work was harvesting. It really didn't do much. Once we established the plants and got them settled, very little work for the year. And here's the thing, if you're thinking about growing food in Florida, you should feel really confident that there is a way. I've given you a couple ideas on some plants, but the thing is that the average piece of food in America travels about 1,000 miles. But here in Florida, a lot of people, you know, when they think about big agriculture states, I think we think of grains in the Midwest, and then of course like California dominates because they just put out so many commercials about how they're so great at agriculture. But Florida is a huge agricultural state. It's our second biggest driver of our economy. So we're known for growing lots of plants, and actually in the winter months we supply a lot of the classic crops up north, from berries to corn, tomatoes, lettuces, all that kind of stuff. So you can still grow traditional vegetables. So don't take me saying like, hey, focus on tropical perennials means that you can't grow classic vegetables. You just have to know the right time of year, and it takes a little bit more know-how in order to get there. So just know that it's okay. So let's get into the money, because a lot of people like to grow food because then you also want to reduce some of your costs. So let's start off with number one. Number one, I don't feel like this is a surprise, seeing as it's not a super common plant at the stores, whether you're going to Publix or elsewhere. It's going to be papaya. Papaya at 212 pounds saved us $490 in a year. Now, would I have bought 212 pounds of papaya in a year? No, I would not have. No, I would not have. But it did help reduce some of our costs, and figuring that out, it was like, eh. And honestly, if you want to understand how I did the calculations, it's just like super simple. Basically, it's like, what did a papaya cost at Publix per pound? And then like, how many pounds did we get? Or, as we get into this next number, if I was gonna buy, like, if I'm replacing something that I would buy at Publix, what did that cost? And like, that's how I get it. It's not complicated math. This is super just like, good enough, let's go. So the number 2 plant for driving savings was mulberries. At 40 pounds, this one saved us $270. And this is what I was talking about, the replacement. Like, Publix doesn't sell frozen mulberries, but we do buy frozen blueberries, frozen strawberries, frozen blackberries. So, berries cost a lot of money. So 40 pounds was a lot of money to save for us, which was fabulous. And which is why I put a lot of effort in this coming year of adding more mulberry plants, like we talked about in the transplant propagating mulberry plants video. Is why I keep adding them, is because I could save a lot more money by growing my own. So we're gonna keep doing that. And mulberry trees, again, super easy. Check out my video on mulberries if you want to learn way more about them. So a number 3 plant that saved us money this year was lettuce. I know, right? We grew 20 pounds of lettuce, and that saved us about $213, which, like, that's a lot of money. Because if you're buying that loose leaf lettuce at Publix, oh my gosh, it's like $10 a pound. And a pound of lettuce is actually a lot, which is why we ate so many salads. And it's actually really easy to grow if you're growing it in the right time of year, which is what throws most Floridians off, is we're growing it like 3 to 4 months after we were supposed to grow it. So I would definitely recommend this. If you're a salad person, like, and right about now in the winter is the time to grow it. So get yourself some lettuce, save some money. I'm just gonna throw in a bonus one, which is sweet potatoes, number 4. So sweet potatoes and sweet potato greens, which I don't remember how many pounds, like 5 pounds of sweet potato greens throughout the year, which was way less than what we expected. We saved $175 this year, with the majority of that coming from the actual tubers, but we were able to take some of those sweet potato greens and mix them in with our lettuce. I wouldn't say like you wanna just do like a full salad of sweet potato greens, because they just don't taste that great. But in a mixed salad, I feel like it's worth it. You should definitely do that. So sweet potatoes, really great. But what you notice that didn't make the list was bananas. Because bananas are cheap. Like, they're super cheap. You're not gonna save a ton of money, but you're gonna have a huge impact on the environment, and they're so easy to grow. Once you get them going and they're good, like, they're good and they're easy. And then you have bananas. So why wouldn't you? So that brings our total of 552 pounds for the year that we grew in 2021, and our total savings was $1,363. And again, that was based on that really easy back of the envelope math. But then I had the question of like, well, if I actually looked at my budget, did my food bill go down year over year? And it did, by $1,100. So even though I didn't have an idea on how to go use all that papaya, the fact that we grew all that 552 pounds, like, it did have an actual impact on our entire food bill. And when I looked at the food bill, I looked at it both ways, looking at grocery to grocery. But then I also looked at the total thing, because with COVID in 2020, we just ate out less. So I was curious to see, like, if I looked at the total number, because I knew we ate out a little bit more in 2021, but it was still down just over $1,000. So I can tell that growing my food is having a really positive impact even on our wallets. Now wait, before we go, because I wanted to talk to you guys about something else I noticed in my data, is that as I tracked the pounds of food for this past year, what I really noticed is that both in 2021 and 2020, the majority of my harvest happened in just 4 months. Basically, it was April and May this year, 2021, and then the year before it was May and June, and then both years, October and November, were huge harvest seasons. And this kind of went back to the whole tropical perennials. So in the fall, the big harvests were papayas, bananas, sweet potatoes. Even though I did harvest earlier in the year, they kind of spread out a little bit more. But if you actually look at this graph, can you guys see this? Okay, so this is how my pounds went throughout the year. Like, we have this, and you can see actually the majority of the beginning of the year, from January all the way until we hit summer, we had a pretty steady harvest with some kind of dramatic pieces in those 2 months. But it started off the year with a lot of citrus. Then we moved into more of our winter crops and then spring crops, but then mulberries was a big piece here. What I could tell you that I learned which didn't surprise me, but it was good to see the numbers, was that the summer I suck at like having summer crops, which I need to really work on better, because they're just basically flatline until we hit the fall, and then boom, and went up again. So I know as we go into this coming year that I need to work better on my whole summer crop game, because that happens. Though maybe I don't need to do that, because usually I'm like way busy in summertime and resetting stuff. So, but just, I thought that was some interesting data. I like tracking stuff. So as I look at all the data from this last year and kind of starting to think about what I'm gonna do next year, this coming year, I'm gonna just stay with my goal of 500 pounds. Because what we found was that a lot of tropical plants, we just generally got way too much stuff, and I don't need all the papaya and sweet potatoes. And I really want to focus a little bit more on some of the vegetables. So this coming year, we're going to target 225 pounds of bananas, because that's about how many bananas we use in a year. So if I can get that, which I think we're in a really good spot, we talked about this on some of the other videos, we've already got 5 bunches of bananas that are hanging on as of New Year. So sometime early in the year or early spring, we're gonna get somewhere between 160 and 200 pounds of bananas just then. And then once we get one more crop in the year, we're gonna be done for the year with bananas. Number 2 is I'm gonna target 100 pounds of papaya, because we were starting to use it as a frozen strawberry substitute. And while my mulberry trees maybe will hit 50, we use about 175 pounds of berries, especially frozen berries in a year. So using that as a substitute will be really, really important for our berry game. Number 3, we're gonna just target sweet potatoes. I talked about we're just gonna draw down that sweet potato down to 50 pounds. I'm hoping to get 50 pounds of mulberries. We got 40 pounds and change this past year. But I'm gonna use some different techniques to try to help make sure that the mulberries we get, we don't lose as many through using some netting and stuff like that. And then we're gonna go after about 75 pounds of miscellaneous, from the lettuces, the tomatoes, the beans, all the stuff, which will probably be about 12 to 15 different types of plants. So all in all, we're just gonna try for that 500 pounds, which the 75 pounds of miscellaneous, I feel like it's totally doable, because this last year we did 78 pounds of miscellaneous items, from peppers to just all the things you saw in the vegetable garden videos. That's what it is. And I love doing this annual look back to see what went well, what do we want to do differently, because it really helps me then start to think through, what am I going to do in this coming year? And that's what I'm going to be doing next. Is next week we're going to be doing our 2022 garden plan. And if you want to follow along with me and get ready for that and start planning your own Florida garden, get your free seasonal gardening calendar at www.wildfloridian.net/calendar. And not for free, but the 2022 Wild Floridian planner is out and has a lot of great things, which you'll get to see more of in next week's video. But one of the things that, you know, as we talked about, in my notebook I have like 17 different places I track information. It's super disorganized. I'm really excited to have this in the planner. Is I have a way now to track every week what I harvested, and then I can roll it up for the year, so I can get the same ideas and be able to track. And if you get the planner, you'll be able to do that too. So you can get this at www.wildfloridian.net/planner, and you can download it immediately, print it as many times as you want. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.